Hey, 8 o'clock men. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let me readjust here. Move my monitor around earlier. So, how is everyone today? Hope you're well. Jersey, it's been a very rainy day since yesterday it started raining. I've kind of been homebound most of the day. I was out early this morning, but just home doing some work, relaxing. Needed it. A long weekend. Hope you did too. Here tonight on the Monday night. See if I can figure out the technology this week. Right, last week I had some difficulties. Let's see if it is showing up here. Man, oh man. All right. Hopefully I can see the post. That's the when men post if they get on and they post. So a couple of weeks ago I started off with a little quote from this little book that I have. And Be Happy. I probably got it as a gift, or maybe I picked it up randomly in a Barnes and Noble. I was just stepping out. They have all those little books. So random. Be happy. A little book to help you live a happy life. After all, that's one of the things that I'm after, right? I try to bring more joy and happiness into my life, whatever that is. Joy is a something that eludes me, but I know when I feel it, and mostly it's, to be honest with you, mostly it's around my kids. And it's when they're doing something and they're really enjoying themselves. Enjoying, right? Enjoy. So maybe it's not that elusive when I look at it like that. Enjoy, doing things that I enjoy. But sometimes the normal stresses and demands of life and responsibility stop me from doing things that I enjoy. And so maybe the key is bringing joy into everything that I do. And I guess I never looked at it that way. It's the first time I said that, but I look at it as fun, right? When people say, "What do you do for fun?" I have things that I do for fun, but again, with 3 young boys, I have a 13-year-old, an 11-year-old, and a 10-year-old, as well as 2 men. But the young ones are the ones that are demanding of my time, and it's my job to help them experience life, right? So when they say, "Hey, Dad, can we go here? Can we go to the park and play soccer?" And they don't want to play with me. They want to play with their brothers and maybe their friends. And if I join, that's cool too. And we've had fun doing that. But they're really going there to practice and be with their friends. But I have to take them. So I find joy in watching them really be kids, And it's not like I'm living vicariously through them. I had my childhood. I enjoyed my childhood for the most part. And watching them brings joy to me. And this is just a reminder, this little thing, this little page here, to bring that happiness to things that I do. Just bring it, right? Just bring it. Love your work. Do things you're good at. Like I said, it'll be satisfying. Love your work. Sometimes that's tough to love your work. And if you can't love your job, maybe love what the job the opportunities the job offers you. I'll give you, for instance, I worked for the railroad for many years, and I wasn't in love with that job. I often said the best thing about that job was that when I stepped off the platform, I got off my train, the job ended. Like, I had no worries. I completed my task for the day, and I walked away with the knowledge of what time I had to set my alarm to come back. But in between those two times, I didn't have to think about my job at all. And that was a gift, right? Because there's so many people. If you own a business, right, you're constantly thinking that could be fun, it could be exciting, but it could be it's all consuming too. I know I've done that as well. If you're a cop, fireman, nurse, doctor, lawyer, I know lawyers that have tough cases and they're really fighting for their clients, or a lot of responsibility on the line, and that's always spinning. So people live their jobs sometimes, and I guess if it's your passion, it's good. But if it's consuming occupation, it might not be good, because where are you in that, right? So, but we as men, a lot of times I thought, I kind of felt stuck in the job that I was in because it did provide a good salary, it did provide benefits, so it allowed me to provide for my family. But it did really nothing for me, so I had to find the fun in it, the joy in it, and find things that I could love about it. Get new perspective. Well, that's what I'm here for, son. I am an expert at giving people's perspective. So if you don't know how to give a quick story of perspective. I was driving up the the New Jersey Turnpike, going north. The Newark Airport was on my left, and as we were driving up, there was a plane going in the same direction. No, it's the opposite direction. So the plane they were landing, going south that day. And as we were driving north and the plane was coming south, it was almost like that plane was hovering. Right? It didn't look like it was moving. It was just like floating down to the runway. And then about 2 hours later, when we were on our way back, we were entering to the turnpike, this ramp that came around there, and as it came around, the runway was right in line with it. Right. So as basically we're on line, sort of runway is now this way across me. Just at that point, a plane's landing, and it was like, and it was down the run. It was like out of sight, like a split second. So I asked a friend of mine that I work with, John, who was a commercial airline pilot at one point in his life. I asked him about the air speeds. Is there planes flying different air speeds when they're landing, or are they about the same? And he says, well, probably between 125 and 150 is what he told me. So all of them, he says, yeah, but pretty much when you're coming down, it's not about the speed. It's just about, however the plane is coming down. And that gave me, so the object being observed, so how does that fall into perspective? The object that I was observing was the plane. Right? Now, two different planes, but it was the same plane with the law of physics, right? So this thing with wings traveling about 125 to 150, about the same weight, was coming down. One perspective, it looked like it was floating. Another perspective, it looked like it was tearing it. Right? So which is right? So that gave me a great, wow. how I look at things, the angle at which I view things, totally can deliver false information to my eyes, or real information, which is right. And I believe perspective. When I have a perspective that's causing maybe a little anxiety, fear. I talked about fear in a previous video. Maybe that paralyzes me for a second. Maybe it paralyzes me for a while. Maybe it paralyzes you for a while. But we can look at the same thing, shift your perspective. You go, oh, okay, that's not so bad, and you move forward. So that's the power of perspective. So absolutely get a new perspective. And that's the power of having a community like the Integrated Man. You don't have one elsewhere, but you can come here and say, hey man, this is what's going on. What am I missing? How do you see it? And men will chime in and give you a new perspective. Could be completely wrong. Not saying they're right, but it's just a way to examine the same thing. Then you still have to come up with your decision, your choice, what you're going to do moving forward. The next one on this little book is have a sense of wonder. Wow. One of the best things about having kids is you watch them and you kind of get caught up in their wonder. As I could say, as I got older, I think I lost that sense of wonder. And then I found something new and regained that sense of wonder. And then I've, lived in that for a little while and lost a sense of wonder, and then find something new and gain that sense. So for me, that sense of wonder has been a wave for sure. And I love when I'm in that wonder. It's like, wow, what's possible? And it's a nice place to be. So that's a good reminder to me to seek that out. Seek out that which makes me go, wow, that's exciting. And the last one for today, do not isolate. Let me see that. Do not isolate. So, and that's hopefully what we're doing here. Who's that? Who's saying ho, ho, ho? Ho, ho. Why can't I see it over here? Comment. No, I don't want to do that. Comment. I can't figure this tech out. Somebody said, "Oh, I don't know who that is," but welcome. It's probably Lindsay. Yeah. So don't isolate, right? So that's one of the points of the Integrated Man community is there's so many of us, so many men that are isolated. I think I went over this the other day when I did a quick video around the men coming in, right? We all had to answer a question. What are you looking for? And so many of us, so many men are just saying brotherhood, community, being around other men, like-minded, mentorship, right? It's the same. It's all the same thing, right? We're all searching for some kind of knowledge, some kind of connection, or that's missing. I shouldn't say we're all searching for it, but at least the men listening here are probably searching for it. Maybe you have it a little bit, but like more is better sometimes, or just being connected and being plugged in to that which serves me. So I'm very proud of the work that we're doing here. Me, Manny, Chris Estevez has been part of it. Got Mike Charman on board now. He threw out a challenge there to the men to do 20 push-ups a day. Commit to it, make a commitment, get involved. Can't hurt, right? There's nothing that we're doing here looking to hurt anyone. It's all about being the best versions of ourselves. It's all about being a little better than yesterday, right? We used the cliche. The best version of myself. I don't want to be the best version of myself because I'm striving to be that. Like, I don't think I'll ever be the best version of myself. The day I die is when I'll be the best version of myself. Okay. And I hope that's not coming for a long time. I alluded it last year, as some of you know. I'll probably talk about that sometime in the future. So, without further ado, I'm going to get into tonight's subject. What is this? I got to find out. People are talking to me here. And I love that you're showing up. Big Frank, I'm going to guess that's Mike. Is that Mike?
That's tough.
Oh, that. Comments. Can I see the comments here? Yeah, there we are. Big Frank, I knew. All right. And Wasia, what's up, Jackson? Thanks for showing up, brother. Appreciate it. So what I wanted to jump on and talk about tonight, last week, I talked about the archetypes. Give an introduction to the archetypes. I don't know how much anyone knows about the archetypes. What I do know is over the years, men have shown up to the weekend that I do, Legacy Weekend, in conjunction with the men of OUT, previously at MDI. And I ask that question when I do my archetype presentation. It's like, how many men have heard the word archetypes? And I raise my hand. Years ago, maybe 1 or 2 out of 30 men would raise their hand. Over the last couple of years, there might be 1 or 2 that haven't raised their hands. So, and it's certainly not, I don't believe it's true what I'm doing, but it's just, I don't know why. I don't know the answer to why that phenomenon has happened. I look at it as a phenomenon. Why that change in knowledge, I don't know exactly where it's come from. Maybe it's the internet. Maybe there's more stuff out there. Anyway, I wanted to, because I talk a lot about the art. That's something I'm very passionate about, something that's influenced my life tremendously. And as I said before, every time I've learned something that has enhanced my life, gives me that sense of wonder that I delve into, then I am compelled to share it. You see this guy back here? Talk about the archetype. Okay. This here, see if I can get in the frame. This is the Nutcracker. You see the Nutcracker, it's Christmas time. It's one of those things. And I don't know if you can see let me see if I can get it close to the camera. You can see it. So this is Merlin. This is Merlin. So obviously it's a magician. Now, my sister gave me this. My sister Angela gave me this. Put it in the back. My sister Angela gave me that, I don't know how many years ago for Christmas. It was like an extra gift for the house. They always put out the nutcrackers and everything. It's one of the things that she decorated her old Victorian. It's pretty cool. And she gave me that, and it wasn't until I started studying the archetypes. I pulled this thing out of the box and found it. And I was like, oh my God. Because I am the consummate magician. I like to be in the question. I like to find the answers, find the solution. I like to have the answers. That's on the light side. I like to be a know-it-all, or I can be a know-it-all. I like to be right. And this is on the shadow side. I like to, or I have, when I say I like to, it doesn't mean I like to, but I have in the past, right? So these are discernments that I'm making. But when I was doing them, when I'm in that shadow behavior, I liked it. It's a thrill, right? I liked fooling people, playing jokes on people, pranks, stealing people's lighters, and then lighting their cigarette with their lighter while they can't find it. That was a game that I used to play. It still makes me laugh. So some harmless things like that. But then the magician can also manipulate. I've been in sales for years also, so it's for me it's a checkpoint. Like it's one of the things that makes me a really good salesman, I think, because I will not lie to someone. I will not because I have that power to manipulate. I know I do, and I won't do that for a living. I won't do that to someone to take, to trick them financially somehow. Will not do that. That's my integrity. I could do it. I know I could do it, but I don't do it. And then sometimes when I'm dealing with my customers, I'll let them know. Be totally honest with them. So last week I kind of gave the introduction to the archetypes, and today I really wanted to talk about the shadow because as the late great Debbie Ford wrote, now you have to walk through the shadow to get to the light. I have to know my shadow and be friends with my shadow in order to really shine my light and stand in my greatness. Father Richard Rohr, he runs the Center for Action and Contemplation in New Mexico. He's done a lot of work over the years throughout the world, books he's written on male initiation. So he's done a lot of really, really good work with men. He's got a series, Men in Grief, which is fantastic, and how and why we don't grieve and what that has done to us. And it's fascinating when you kind of delve into the psyche of men. And that's what I love about the archetypes. Hey, Mike Kroll, thanks for joining, Mike. That's what I love about the archetypes because, as I said before, the archetypes are a description of what is, right? It's not making something up. It's not something phony. It's not something, it just kind of describes what is and be able to put it in a box and say, here it is. And here's the playbook, for the king. Here's the playbook for the warrior. Here's the playbook for the magician. Here's the playbook for the lover. Now, there are a ton of archetypes, but the ones that I talk about mostly in this men's work is King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. That's based off the book, King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, The Four Archetypes of Mature Masculine by two Jungian psychologists, Robert Moore and Gillette. And in teaching the Legacy Weekend, that's what we lead with also. And it's so well received. Men get it. So I know how men receive this work and can assimilate it. And so that's what I'm just hoping to impart part of what I'm doing in the Integrated Man. The Integrated Man, the name itself came from a talk that I did probably about 12 years ago on this very subject of the four archetypes. But a lot of times we look at them, we segment them to talk about it, right? We'll talk about the king, we'll talk about the war. However, our self is comprised of those four archetypes, how they play off each other, how they affect each other. So it's more of the internal game so I title that talk, I Man, integrating the four archetypes of mature masculine into your true self. And that's where the name of this group came from, the Integrated Man. So the I in iPod, and the I in iPad, and the I in I Man, the I stands for integrated. And I didn't know that. And I was telling, we were talking to Mike Charman this morning, and I mentioned that. So how do we all integrate these archetypes in ourselves? And that's what the quest will be. But before we integrate it, we have to isolate, understand, work with, and then interact with, and then let them play with each other. And then the integration kind of happens. So With archetypes, just like the yin yang, excuse me 1 second, I get a tissue. So the archetypes, kind of like to describe them as the yin yang, right? Or an archetype is like a quarter. One side of the quarter is heads, the other side of the quarter is tails. You cannot have that quarter without both sides of that quarter, right? One side does not exist without the other side. Right? That's the simplest way to it's the simplest way to explain how archetypes are one thing, but have two distinct energies, polarities. The best way to look at it. Right? You know, the polarizing energies. So polarizing energies come together and they form one thing. It's a bond. Can't break it. Once you break it, it's something different. So you have to remember, it's very important to remember that this is an energy. Now, please don't let that, and I hope we're well beyond that, but once upon a time, if you got too woo-woo with men, they would go, I don't understand this shit, I'm out of here, right? This is not woo-woo, all right? If this is woo-woo, then electricity is woo-woo. Okay? If this is woo-woo, then gravity is woo-woo. If this is woo-woo, then the internet that we are I'm communicating with you right now is woo-woo. Right? This is just energy. All right? It's there, it's real. And because it holds to a certain set of rules. And once we know those rules, we can play with the energy, and the energy doesn't play with us. So that's really the power of this perspective. If you don't like this perspective, that's okay, but this perspective has served many men, many people, and many men that I know of that I've taught it to. And I've taught other men, and they've taught it, and it's just something that has been considered very valuable to very many men and many people. So, that being said, the archetypes being two sides of the same coin, or the yin yang, where the yin and the yang, and there's the yang and the yin and the yin and the yang on each side. So it's all homogenized. It's separate. It's not homogenized. It's separate, but it's one. That's an important concept. So every time that an archetype comes up, in men's work at least, men always refer to the light side, right? They'll say, I want to be that king, and they'll say it just like that. I need more of that king energy in my life. And what they're meaning about that king energy is to have the resources, to have abundance, to live in abundance, to be connected to that purpose, to have people that they're taking care of, and that also take care of them as a king, see them as a king. Not because they have the crown on, but because they are holding that energy of the king, that acknowledgement, right? The king is also a place of acknowledgement where you acknowledge others, but you also get acknowledged. Right? So people see that side of the king, and that's what they want. They don't see the tyrant. They don't see the crybaby. They don't see a person that lives in lack. Midas, right? The story of Midas, that's the Shadow King. But gold was so important, and he wished for more gold, and he wished that everything that he could touch was gold. And that's why the Midas touch is everything that you touch was gold. The thing that he loved most in the world was his son. When he touched his son turned to gold. There was no way to reverse it. So that's where that greed but that's a lack mentality. It's not an abundant mentality. Right? That is, I have to have this all for me. It was an abundant thing. It was like he'd be touching stuff and giving it away, but he wasn't doing that. It's mine. It's all mine. So that bit him in the ass, and turned his son into. So when people see the archetypes and say they want to be the king, they want the light side, but with that same side comes the possibility of the shadow side or the dark side, right? You can say the dark side. But when we say the dark side, what do you think of right away? Star Wars, right? Perfect, right? Because that is exactly what we're talking about. Lucas, who did the Star Wars, he was a big fan of Joseph Campbell, who wrote a lot about the hero's journey. One of his famous works was The Hero with 1,000 Faces. But Joseph Campbell talked a lot about the hero's journey, a lot about the archetypes and the myths. Love Joseph Campbell's work, absolutely adore it, fantastic. And tying all of these mythologies and stories and human experience together, not just the hero's journey, but really the archetypes. He was between him and Jung's work, you can get a tremendous value out of or knowledge of the archetypes. And fortunately, you can go out there and do that, or you can just kind of tune in here and I kind of give you the cliff notes. My role is to take all that, a lot of information, and distill it down to usable form for you guys. If you want to go out and read the books, great. Love to have the conversations. I just want to give you some really useful information around it so that you can put it into your life tomorrow. So then let's look at the warrior. Talk about the warrior. It's, I want to get out there. I want to crush it at work. I want to kill it. I want to get in the gym. Yes, conquer. Conquest, not conquer. Conquest, a little bit different. I'll explain. Conquest. Rise to the occasion. Protect the weak. Protect the women. Fight for a reason, a purpose. And that's the connection to the king, right? The king is the king has the connection to the purpose. That's why the kingdom had the peak, was the tallest. If the flag was the tallest in the city, nothing could be taller than the flag on the castle. Right? Same thing with the church, right? Nothing could be taller than. I don't know how that worked out. I would imagine the castle was higher than the church, but it was still that both of them was higher than anything else. Remember back then, the regular folks lived in thatch roofed huts if they had a home, right? So it was very low to the ground. And here, these monstrosities of building reaching up into the heavens. Where was God? The perception of it into the heavens. So they were connected to God or descended from God. But God being purpose, right? In our conversation here. So the king had the connection, the divine connection to the purpose. The warrior was in service to the king, that righteous purpose. Think of World War II vets fighting the evil Axis of the Nazis, Archetypes, right? It's perfect. I mean, it's just played out right there. The greatest generation. So that's what we see with the warrior. However, the other side, the shadow, is lazy, it's undisciplined, isolated, serves the wrong master. Think like a mercenary. Think in mythology, or the Dark Knight type. There could be a lone wolf, or there could be, the marauding group, that don't have allegiance to anyone, or they serve the Dark Lord. Okay, the shadow side. So how do these work into our lives? Again, when that energy is present, we have a choice. Let's shift over to the magician real fast, right? The magician is, I think, the doctor, the lawyer, the teacher, anyone with specialized knowledge, any specialized knowledge you have. On the light side of the magician, I want to give it away. I want to share it. Maybe not give it away, but it's here to be shared. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to have my practice, and yes, when you come to me, I will give you all. I'll apply all I won't give you the knowledge, and that's not what you're there for. But I'm going to apply all my knowledge to help you. Teacher, professor, giving all that knowledge away. Someone staying in the question. That's all the light side. You want that, right? Seeking knowledge, sharing. However, what comes with that is the dark side, the shadow side, withholding information, manipulating information, withholding information. I'm starting to feel like a conspiracy theorist or a mainstream media executive. What else with lying, straight out lying, not knowing. Here's one of the best about the magician, the shadow magician. How many identify with this? I didn't know. Sorry, I didn't know. I wasn't aware. That's my 10-year-old does that a lot. When he gets caught, he said, "Hey, why did you do that?" "Oh, I didn't know." And he played that. I could see it, man. And full transparency. That's what I did when I was. I think that's what most of us do when we're young, but that's what I did. I mean, I banked on my parents wanting to believe the best in their son. I played that. Absolutely, 100%. So my magician is well honed and has been at work for a long time. And then we have the lover. Now, when we talk about the lover archetype, that's things that are connected to our heart, our emotions, how we give emotion, how we get emotion, how we express emotion, our feelings, right? How we're connected with other things, connected to nature, through nature. So we're in the lover energy. Let's listen to music. Let's be together. Let's be really corny. If you're like so in love, like who, and again, I'll take my mask off here, right? Just that image of running through a field with the woman that you're in love with, that thing is like, oh yeah, that would be nice. Like it's just the idea. I've never done that. I don't know if I would ever do it, but as I capture that idea in my head, it's like, oh yeah, like just to feel like to be that in love is a good feeling, right? So when people think about the lover, it's being that connected to themselves, to their emotions, and being expressive and anything like that. It's great. However, we have, in my opinion, the most impactful shadow of them all is a shadow lover. Why? Because we're emotional beings. And when you're in the shadow lover, you're detached from those emotions, or you're so controlled by the emotions, right? You're so in the emotions, very dramatic, overly sensitive. You know, and with men, when we say overly sensitive, right away I think of a woman. A woman's overly sensitive, right? Sometimes, a lot of times when men are overly sensitive, they're quick to anger. They fly into rage. Now, what we see is someone getting angry, right? And their actions would be that of the actions of a shadow warrior, right? They become violent. They start yelling, and they whatever you associate with that violent warrior. But that person is in the shadow warrior because the lover was not able to contain the emotion. I was not able to contain the emotion. Okay, so I believe that because we're human beings, our emotions are what make us most powerful. It is what separates us from other species in a lot of ways. When we really care about something, we're intuitive about something, when we're the desire, right? That passion, right? We say, oh, he had a passion for this, and they go out and they create. So, yeah, a lot of our creativity as human beings come from the passion that are involved in. So, when the shadows at play, that's skewed, or we make stuff up, or we give in to different emotions that happen, because a lot of times feelings are, I would say, feeling is like a fart in the wind. It's going to pass. It's going to pass. It might circle back around, but there's few feelings that stay with us like all the time. Right? And even if you say, oh, I've always loved someone, you're not always feeling that love for someone, because I might be focused on something else, and that's playing golf, and you're going to hit a 3-foot putt for the win. When you're over that ball, and if it's a right to left break, going downhill, you got to be totally focused, 100% on that situation. So in that situation, you're not thinking about anything else. Right? That's the beauty of being so focused in the moment, which is also a lover aspect. To be so in the moment, so connected with something. But at the same time, we can get engulfed in that moment and lost in that moment. So there's a fine line between being totally in a moment that you're connected to everything. Years ago, when I walked across the Grand Canyon, I was down by the Canyon Ranch. The Shadow Ranch, down by the Colorado River. And I walked over to a beach, and I can't remember the name of the beach. It's a little beach head, maybe 100 feet long. And I was looking at the Black Bridge across the Colorado River. And I did a little meditation, just doing some breathing. And very, very super profound moment in my life. There was no one else there. When I got there was two couples, and they had left. And I was there by myself. And I started doing this meditation, and it came over me, and I was I felt like I was part of everything. I can't explain it. I don't know how else to explain it except that I felt like I was part of everything. Like I felt the wind. I heard the wind. I was aware of what the wind was doing to the water. It sounds like bullshit. I know. It was a surreal moment that I was just in. I was a part of my surroundings. And the interesting thing about that is I'm looking at this, I'm looking up at the Black Bridge. I was in the distance. And this, I'm in nature. I'm feeling this. A plane flew over at a jet line, way, way up. I mean, it was a little tiny blip, but it was definitely there and it went across. And it could have spoiled my experience because I was in this nature right now. And something from the outside was coming in, but it didn't. It's like, wow, I'm still in the valley of the canyon. I'm still connected to that which is outside. So it even reaffirmed more of what I was thinking. So that could be the lover. Shadow side of the lover is so focused on an addiction that you don't notice everything collapsing around you. That's a shadow side of love. So good news is, or bad news is, we can't live without the shadow. Right? It is part and parcel of you. You think of the story of Peter Pan. Right? Peter Pan comes into a panic, into the room where Wendy is, and he's lost his shadow. He's lost his ability to fly. And she's a human. And she has compassion. And empathy. And she sews his shadow back on. And now he's whole. And they can fly. So you want to be friends with your shadow. And I know it's hard. Because we look at these patterns in ourselves. Like, I can't believe I did it again. Why do I keep doing this to myself? How do I stop this from happening? And what I want you to know is that, and now there's a moment of choice. When you feel yourself into that shadow and you realize you're in the shadow, that right, you're in the shadow. You know you're in the shadow. If you believe in this perspective that I'm giving you around the archetypes, and that energy is the same, you're also standing in the same energy, right? You can't separate these energies. So the energy of the light is there with you as well. All you have to decide is which one you're going to plug into. And it's like that picture you see out there floating on the internet sometimes about the wolves, right? The dark wolf and the light wolf. This is shadow work, right? Which one's going to both get into a fight? Which one's going to win? Well, the one that you feed more. Right? So yes, you can feed that shadow archetype too much, but I'm not talking about that, right? It's not about feeding it. That's a different discussion. Right now, it's about just a choice. Which one are you going to pick? And I know when you look at the pattern, if you can look back in your life and you see a pattern, a certain, any pattern that you look at, if you can segment that pattern into one of these four archetypes. If it's not one of these four archetypes, you want to call it something else, that's okay, right? Because there's as many archetypes as there are stars in the sky. But I can't talk about all of them. So we're going to pick just the four, and I'll talk about some others here and there. But because it's a men's group, we're going to focus mostly on these four. So once you can recognize that pattern, and then you know you're in it, you're like, oh, what do I do now? you make a different choice, right? There's going to be an opportunity if you make a different choice. I don't know what that opportunity looks like, but I guarantee you that if you're seeing the pattern and you develop that level of awareness of the pattern, you will be able to see a moment of choice. Okay, guaranteed, guaranteed. Now, I can also tell you that if you're in the shadow of the lover, right, the best way to get out, because sometimes, let's say you're depressed, or we check that back, right? Because I think too many people say they're depressed. And for me, I'm going to reserve depressed for a clinical diagnosis. Okay? This is not to knock anyone, but I believe there's being down, being in a rut, being melancholy, being sad, maybe not having grieved properly. For a lot of things, grief doesn't just come with a loss of a loved one. Grief can come with the loss of a job. Grief can come with a lot of different things. Change, right? When we change, move from a different house, that could be a grief going on. If we don't know how to do that, it can bring our energy down. So our energy is depressed, but we're not suffering from depression. Right? That's a clinical diagnosis. So that's my distinction there. However, we're feeling depressed. We're feeling down. Our energy is down. What's the best? It's hard to say, come on, like shift that energy, make a choice to someone that's connected. Like it's hard to go from the shadow of the lover to the light of the lover in itself. However, we don't have to, right? We have that which is part of us, the warrior. So if I know what's going on with the warrior, what's the warrior? Be in action, right? So sometimes it's a great, and this kind of goes with the challenge Mike put out there today. One of the best ways for the warrior to help the lover get out of that, rise out of depressed energy is to exercise, right? To do something, to be in action. Right? And exercise is an easy way to be in action. Same thing with the king, right? If you find yourself in that lack mentality, wanting to control things, being a little tyrannical, it's hard to shift over to benevolence all by itself. And we're doing this in the group too. But you can't ask yourself the question every day, what am I grateful for? And we're doing this. We've got a few men, we got about half a dozen men in the group doing this, including myself every day. What am I grateful for? And listing it and going over it. That's the magician inside of me asking that question of the king. That's living in lack. But then I said, but what are you grateful for? I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for my home. I'm grateful for my children. I'm grateful for the love of a good woman. I'm grateful for the roof over my head. I'm grateful for my truck. I'm grateful for my socks. I'm grateful for my men in my Facebook group. I'm grateful for the men in my life. Oh, wait a second. I thought I was just in lack. I'm not in lack. Look at all this stuff I'm grateful for. So it's hard to occupy those two spaces at the same time. I have to make a choice. What do I want to be? Do I want to be pissed off and angry that I don't have everything I want? Or do I want to be happy and enjoy and be grateful for what I do have? What serves me better in the moment? What's going to cause me to be at my best to move forward? Well, for me, it's going to be in the light of whatever. So I use my internal to do that. Some of the exercise that we're giving you here in the group to build that skill as well, even though you don't know it. Like you don't have to know it. Do it And then you hear the description, and, oh shit, yeah, I got it now. And then you'll be able to do it on your own. So again, I said the archetypes are just that. Everyone knows, right? You don't feel good, go and exercise. Oh yeah, the endorphins get going and this and that. Absolutely, 100%. I agree with that. And the energy spectrum is still the same as well. All right. So the whole point for me, I believe, in teaching and trying to bring the symbolic side of the archetypes to anyone that'll listen, is to help them live a more empowered life through conscious choice. That's it. Right? Conscious choice. What is conscious choice? Being aware of my situation, knowing that I have a choice in front of me, making a choice, and accepting the consequences of those choices. No, that's responsibility. That's being empowered. If I make a choice and it goes bad, and I try to blame it, pawn it off on other things, how empowered am I? I just disempowered myself. And so you have to own, I have to, you have to, we all should, I have to, I'll speak personally, I have to own the consequences of my choices. And I have to own that I've made those choices. Even when those choices don't turn out the way that I wanted them to. And in fact, especially when they don't turn out the way I want. Well, I could take credit, right? They could make a good choice. Oh, it could be. That's easy. But can I own my choices when the outcome is not right? Or is not what I want it to be? I shouldn't say right. That's more important. All right, that's more important. So my friend John is, he always reminds me of when I taught him about, he'll never stop reminding about what flips this, the thought that he holds on to this day. As I said, it's as easy as flipping a switch. And I really do believe that. I'll give you one more perspective about this is we see our shadow. It's so much easier to see our shadow, right? Literally. I'm a very literal person, but literally, if we go outside on a super sunny day, not a cloud in the sky, no pollution, those UV rays are just burning through. You're at the beach, right? And you turn around and that sun is hitting your back and it's casting a shadow. You can look at that shadow for a long, long time. No problem. You turn around, look at the sun. You'll be doing this. It's hard to look at the light. It's hard to stand in the light. I believe that we can see our shadows so much easier, right? It's like, oh yeah, I suck. I did this wrong. I did that wrong. So we can see that shadow. But when that shadow is present, know that the only reason why it's present is because the light is there as well. And all it is just which energy am I going to play with? Which side of this coin am I going to choose? Now, here's the greatest thing about this. If you choose the shadow, that's okay. That's a conscious choice. So you can choose the shadow. You do not abandon the shadow. Please do not abandon your shadow. That shadow has helped you. That shadow has brought you through your life. Right? Our shadow archetypes develop very early. They develop out of our ego or from our ego in conjunction with our ego development, and that ego is there to help you survive, right? That's the purpose of your ego, is to help you survive. So the skills of the shadow archetypes are also forged in that survival. Right? So it developed very early. Just like my 10-year-old son, right? He doesn't want to get in trouble. Oh, I didn't know. Plays the innocent. It's great when they don't get what they want. Temper tantrums. Right? That's the Shadow King, right? The High Chair King. Matter of fact, that's what they call it in the book. That's what Moore and Gillette call it, the High Chair King. I want my paper. So the shadow archetypes, the shadow side of the archetypes develop early enough and are strong. And a lot of times it's the default. Right? Something comes up and we can default easily into the shadow. But now that we're adults, sometimes that shadow behavior does not serve us. So we just know that when you feel it coming, you can see it. Say, okay, this happened, that happened, that. Here's my usual. Wait a second. Last 1,000 times I did that, this happened. What do you think is going to be fucking different? Nothing. All right. It's the same movie. It's the same movie. It's Groundhog Day. Right? But know in that moment that you can make a different choice. The energy is there. You have everything that you need. All you got to do is make a different choice. Okay? So that's kind of how simple it could be. Once you're aware. But the awareness is paramount. And for me, at least, that's why the language is important too, so I can see it. So listen, when I watch movies, I'm watching movies and I'm seeing all the archetypes. That's one of the reasons why I love Lord of the Rings, because it's so well played out. It's caricature. I see them also in Star Wars, but I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, but I've seen all of them. So they're there in our movies, myths, and legends, for sure. So that's one of the ways that I've studied them over the years and continue to be aware of them. And then you see it in people. You listen to the words. That's one of the things that I do is listen to the words people use. There's certain words that go with certain archetypes. In sales, you have people, he's out there killing it. He's crushing it. Well, who kills and crushes? Which archetype kills and crushes? The shadow warrior kills and crushes. So the shadow warrior will it's a win at all cost. What do you have to do to win at all cost? We have to lie and cheat to win at all costs. So I don't like those terms. Kill it and crush it. They may say, "Oh, they're just having fun." Why does it have to be that? Why does it have to be kill and crush, conquer? Because you made a sale. I don't use those words in that. I think words are very powerful. One word I don't allow in my house, that I don't like in my house at all, is hate. To me, hate is tantamount to evil. Okay, and so when someone says, "I hate Brussels sprouts," like it's just not possible. That's just not possible to hate Brussels sprouts. You can't hate Brussels sprouts. Don't say that you hate Brussels sprouts. Right? You don't like them. You don't like the way they taste. But don't say you hate them. That's so lazy. That's I call that being emotionally lazy, because you're tying an emotion of hate, like the evil emotion of hate. Because those two things are tied together, right? There are hate crimes. What Hitler did to the Jews was out of hate. Genocide comes out of hate for others. It's so just a shift of language. You don't have to like everything, but it's not hate. And I think that's important. So just around the hour, men. I want to thank you again for checking in, for watching. I don't know how many are still out there. Let's see. We all read Robert Black. Hey, Rob, how you doing? Clint Roberts, thanks for joining. Clint, I don't know if you're still out there. Michael Smith. Hey, Mike, thanks for joining. Hope you all got something out of this. If you didn't listen to the whole thing, maybe you got a piece that was good. And see you during the week. See you next Monday for sure. And that's it. Reach out if you have any questions. Thanks, man.